Okay, today's topics. This is what we're going to cover today. I like to tell you what we're going to do it, and then tell you what I did. That's sort of one of the fundamentals of teaching, right? I was a high school teacher for 6 years. I also spent about 5 or 6 years doing training, programming training all over the country. I even trained programmers for the Air Force, so I've been doing a lot of training. Okay, today we're going to talk about WordPress SEO fundamentals. We're actually going to look at the kind of things you can do by hand to help your WordPress site kind of have the basics. There's a few things you should do regardless of what plugin you choose to use. Then we're going to review the kind of things that you would want in your plugin. What kinds of things are you looking for when you're looking for a good SEO plugin? So we're going to go through those kinds of ideas of things you might want to look for. Then we're going to do a quick overview of the latest comprehensive SEO plugins. And then we're going to look at a lot of the supporting or specialized SEO plugins. There are some plugins that specialize on one little piece of the SEO picture. And there are other plugins that are comprehensive and try to do everything. And of course they don't do everything, but they try. So we're going to look at those two groups, and sometimes you're going to mix and match those two. Then we're going to look at WordPress SEO strategies. Okay, how would you use these kinds of plugins in a very general sense? Okay, it would apply to all of them. And then at the end, we're going to take two of kind of the top plugins for 2013, comprehensive, and we're going to kind of compare them. And I don't know how much time we'll have for that, but whatever time we have, we'll go back and forth and look at those two plugins and compare them, where their setups are, the kinds of things you should focus on first, etc. Okay? Okay. As you will find if you come to these to my talks very often, I always try to inform you of the downside of everything. And there's a downside to plugins, and I call it death by plugin. And that is, one of the problems that we have is that we get excited about plugins. Oh, I can do a plugin to do this, and I got a plugin to do that. And after a while, your website is crawling because you have put so many plugins on, and every time you put a plugin in, guess what? There's more processing that has to go on. More things that have to be moved around, stored in the database, processed before it can go to the person watching your website. So every plugin adds complexity. Every plugin degrades performance to some degree. Every plugin adds possible vulnerabilities to hacking. Plugins introduce places that hackers can get into your website. Okay, so there's downsides. And believe it or not, sometimes plugins don't get along.
Like your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, sometimes they just plain old don't get on. Matter of fact, if you went to WordPress.org's forums and you saw a message about somebody having trouble with their site, guess what's the first thing people tell that person? Shut off all your plugins and see if that fixes your problem. Oh, okay. So guess what the most common problem is? Plugins fighting each other, getting into each other's way. Too much of a good thing? Yeah, probably. So be frugal about plugins is my word of advice. Pick the ones, test them, evaluate them, then decide whether they are really something you need, and if not, get rid of it. Move on. Don't leave plugins in there just because you thought they were neat and you just haven't bothered taking them off. Deactivate them. Delete them. You can always download them later if you really want to. It's so easy to get them. So don't leave them hanging around. Okay? Those files are sitting there. Even if you deactivated, that file is sitting there, and somebody out there, if they know you have a vulnerability, will try to access that file in your WordPress hierarchy, and if it's there, they'll use it to break in.
The thing is, too, is if they're just sitting there and you're not using them, you're probably not updating them, and you constantly need to update.
Right. For example, there's a file called timthumb. That's the name, timthumb.php. It's used by a lot of different programs to process images and stuff. Some older versions of that are a hacker's paradise. They can access that file and get into your WordPress site and just take over. So you have to, matter of fact, there's called a timthumb scanner that you can download that checks your version, Tim Thumb, updates it to the latest to make sure you're hacker-proof. Okay, we have there's a whole video there on the meetup called WordPress Security. I'd recommend you watch that video and read that ebook, because it goes through all of that. But anyway, keep in mind, death by plugins. Take that seriously.
Yeah, real quick question
Yes.
now. On the degrades performance, you're referring to speed of load?
Mhm.
Okay. I suspected that, but I thought I'd better clarify.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's what it is. Fundamentals. Now these are some things that you can do before you even add a plugin. These are kind of, what do I do? I just want to get something going and get it going in the right direction. So one of the things you want to do is you want to set your permalink structure. And we'll talk about that in detail in a minute. You want to set your preferred domain, and you want your titles and stuff to, your slugs they're called, which is the part of your URL name for that particular page or post. It's called a slug. And I was curious way back, wondering where slug came from. Actually, the word slug comes from publishing. Apparently, it's a word that is used to it's kind of like a label for a published article that they're tracking internally, and it could have some codes and dates attached to it. But so WordPress sort of took that over and uses the word slug. So when you hear the word slug, it's basically the name of your post or page. It's the name. Okay, well, you want your slugs to not have a lot of a and the and of and all of those little, what are called stop words. So that's what a stop word. Stop words are the little tiny words. You want to get those out of your slugs, so that your slugs are nice and tight and have your keywords. So you can do that all the time. You don't have to have a plugin to do that. Well, there are plugins to help you do that more automatically. They should all be done regardless of plugin used, and some plugins will help you do that faster. So there are plugins that will address some of these things for you, but I wouldn't install a plugin to do that specifically. If you have a plugin and it helps you, great. But that's not a reason to have a plugin, is to do these three things. Because two of them you only do once for your entire time that you have the website, and the other you do every time you type a title in, and that can be done very easily. Okay, so let's look at permalinks a second. You have a page in your settings that looks like this in WordPress, and you have a bunch of options for how your WordPress URLs, and this last little piece here is called the slug. That's this little piece right here. Okay, that's the slug, the name of your post. Now, what you want for SEO purposes is you want your title slug to be the last piece at the end of that. So this one would not be a good SEO one, and this would be not a good one. But these three here are, and then of course, this is the one I use all the time. Your post name is the one I use. You can create your own custom version, in other words. Your last option is custom, and you can create your own custom version by using the %, the name, and % symbol. And so any of these three here, or you create custom one. Basically, the reason why I think you don't want just the post name by itself is, what if you were the kind of blogger that blogged on the same topic periodically every year? Well, you don't want to change the title every time necessarily for your internal. You want the title to be similar. So by having the year there, then you could have a post of the same name with a different year. And that changes your slug and everything so that it now is accessible. So you could have a favorites for 2012, a favorites for 2013. You can do that sort of thing. And you won't have a name conflict out there. For domain name, also in your settings, you can set up this is done for you automatically. Okay, so it shouldn't be a problem, but sometimes people will want to alter it slightly. For example, this part right here is called the host. It is not required generally, unless you are using the host within your website, within your web hosting site. Everybody thinks that www. is what you got to have. I've had people, I've told them to write something in, and they always put www in front, and I said, well, I didn't tell you www. Oh, I thought you always did. No. www is just kind of a standard host name. Okay, it's not required.
It used to be required, didn't it?
No, it never has been required.
Okay.
It's a host name. For example, I have rightstartwebsites.net, and I have a whole bunch of hosts. I have WordPress 03, 04. These are my test WordPress sites. So I'm using the exact same web server, the exact same hosting location, but I can divide it up to different folders by having the different host names. So I can literally have different websites on the same domain by changing the host name. But that's a geeky thing you do back on the web server. Some hosting companies call them subdomains. And that's not wrong. They're not wrong by calling it that. It's just that it's technically not correct. Technically, it's called a host. You have the host, domain, and the TLC, which is the last TLD, which is the last section of the name, which is the domain type, net, com, etc. Okay? Okay, stop words. Here's a good example. The nice title of my post. And after I type that in, WordPress creates this slug. You can click edit and you'll get this. And you can then remove the ofs and the thes. And then click OK, and now your slug has changed. So this is a little process you can do every time you edit your title and get rid of the stop words.
And the stop words just hinder in a search?
Well, you got to realize that Google only uses so many characters, and you want to minimize that, and you want to emphasize your keywords. And the and of and a are not keywords. So you just want to get them out of the picture.
Okay.
So it's not terrible. It's just that it's all part of what's called optimizing your website. So it's just an optimization thing. Okay, now let's get back to plugins. What should an SEO plugin do for me? It should show me where, it should help me. It should guide me a little bit. It should by being there, I should be able to go, oh, is that what I'm supposed to do? Right? It should kind of teach me a little bit by having pieces there that remind me what I should be doing. And it should help me with my SEO structure. It should help me with my organization. And it should do some of those things for me automatically. I should just do them. Okay? Now be careful with that, because there are some times that when it does something like that automatically, and Google changed their algorithm, and now it's suddenly a bad thing. So you want to look for plugins that allow you to turn things off and on. Okay, it should be an off switch to every little automatic feature. Everything that's automatic should have an off switch. Because if Google changes something next month, you don't want to have to wait for the plugin to be approved. You want to just be able to go in and go, oh,
But
turn
how
it
do
off.
you know? I mean, you don't know if Google changes something. I mean, if you hear it from someone, then you
Yeah,
know.
if you hear it from somebody, yeah. If you're really into the marketing on the web, then that's one of the things you got to do.
What do you think about Yoast?
We'll get to that. You're getting ahead of me. Okay, you also want to automate repetitive tasks. As you know, you only have so much time, and you would like to focus on some of the more core things, and you want this to be as automated as possible. So automation is a really good thing. And you want to reinforce good SEO habits in the way you do your titles, and the way you do your descriptions, how you write your content, anything that helps you, guides you, reminds you where you're making a mistake, reminds you the kind of basic SEO things you should be doing, is going to help you do it faster, more efficiently, and spend less time doing that and more time doing what you should be doing to keep your business going. Okay, what are some of the desired plugin tasks? Okay, we know generally at the 10,000 foot level what we want this to do. What are some of the specific things we would like this to do? This applies to all comprehensive SEO plugins, okay? We want it to help us optimize titles and descriptions. We want it to help us optimize our content and give us suggestions, keyword density, things like that, though keyword density is not that important anymore. It's still a good idea to make sure keywords are in there somewhere. Image and media, in other words, compressing your images. There's plugins that do that. Making sure you have your alt tags on your images, things like that. All good stuff that want to help you. Same thing with any media, with your videos. Site performance. You want something that is cognizant of your performance. Helps your performance, whenever possible. Tag enhancements. For example, microdata, which is your the kind of information that Google's now really emphasizing in their search results. Authorship is being really, really big with Google+. We'll be talking about that next month. And of course, social engagement. Things that get people to engage in your website. That's part of being social, is that engagement. So anything you can encourage engagement in your website is a nice little thing. And then your SEO optimizations should help you with that. Other things, or things like automation of normal repetitive tasks, which I've already talked about. XML sitemap management. You want to make sure your XML sitemap's up to date all the time because Google uses it. And you want to publish it to Google so that you can be telling Google, guess what? This is what my website looks like. And help them if they use that. Template optimizations. Okay, WordPress is a template processor. That's what WordPress is. It processes templates. Templates are little patterns of how your website's going to look. And each theme has altered that template a little bit. But it's still a template. So you want to have some help optimizing that template to make sure it runs fast. Okay, some themes aren't as good at that as others. Well, your SEO plugin should try to help you with that. Authorship and publish settings. We'll talk more about that in Google+, but you want to be able to have your authorship and publish tags and help you publish it to Google so that Google and you are in sync in terms of who's the publisher and your authors, whether it's just one author or whether you have multiple authors on your website, and how all that works out. Managing duplicate content. This one always trips people up because most of us think, I don't have duplicate content. I wrote one article, that's it. Well, what you don't realize is that WordPress keeps a copy of your article in the archives that it now is displayable. So now you have your original post in your archive. And if you have it part of a tag of a category, it's now showing up there. So that same article is now showing up in 3 different places. And your plugin should help manage that and make Google think there's only one there instead of 3. So that's how you manage your Google. That's how you manage your duplicate content, even if you really don't have duplicate content. But Google will think you have duplicate content. Okay? Now that wouldn't happen on a regular SEO, regular HTML site, but that's one of the downsides of a content management system. It's called "No good deed goes unpunished." One of my favorite sayings. And the good deed is that WordPress keeps an archive for you and links it to the category, but the bad side of that, the punishment, is now you have 3 copies floating out there as far as Google is concerned, even if they're the same copy. And no good deed goes unpunished. Next slide. Factors that might make a plugin or feature a problem. This comes back to the death by plugins. Every plugin, somewhere along the line, could ultimately be your worst enemy. And you need to be aware of that. Which is why you don't want to get too carried away with plugins that you just randomly throw on your site. You want to keep it lean so you can keep it under control. Google changes an algorithm. All of a sudden, something your plugin's doing is now hurting you in your SEO. You need to be able to turn it off. Somebody out there abuses something that was really a good idea. Backlinks, for example. Abused like everything. Now you have Penguin slapping people down for abusing backlinks. So there were plugins out there that used to help you build backlinks. Now those plugins are bad stuff.
What's Penguin?
It's one of the Google algorithm. It's one of their algorithms that they've published. There's Panda and Penguin are the 2 that really have done a lot of changes. Basically, what it is that what is Google's purpose in life? Is it to help people find you? No. Their purpose in life is to sell ads. That's their purpose in life. And how do they get this? How they get people to come to their search engine so that they can sell ads? If people get good results when they do searches, good results. So if they come to Google and they get garbage results, they're gonna stop coming to Google, and then Google can't sell their ads, which is what Google's all about. So Google's all about making sure their search results are really good. And people abuse that and try to put themselves up high on the search results, even though they're not selling that particular thing, even though they're not even in that particular market. They just want to be on top. So Google wants to make sure those links are really good. And so that's where people have abused it, and Google is getting smarter and smarter at slapping those people down. They have the ball, they have the bat, they have the diamond, you know, they play the game. No longer supported. Sometimes somebody will do a plugin that seems really neat, and then the author goes off, does something else, and leaves it sitting there. And then it no longer is supported. You've been using it, it's been working good for you, and then you upgrade to your next version of WordPress, and it breaks and everything goes trash. So you got to be watching out for that. So what do you do before you upgrade your WordPress, which you should be doing every time it shows up?
Backup.
Backup, yes. Because after you upgrade, your site crashes because one of your plugins no longer is supported by that next version, you won't be pulling your hair out and thinking life has ended for the world as you know it. You'll be able to go, oh, no problem, I'll just restore my backup and get back and remove that plugin and then do my update.
And there is a plugin for backup. More than one. So.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, let's look at the sort of the top one. What I did was, I did this on Google. I went back and looked for any SEO review for 2013 of comprehensive WordPress SEO plugins. Okay? And so this is a list of everyone that came up, and I spent maybe 3 hours looking, going through every one. So this is a 3-hour, this is what would take you 3 hours to do. The mentions on the end are how many times they showed up in a review, which means kind of their popularity of reviewers. And they're in the order of, they're put in order. So you can see, you asked me about Yoast. Guess where Yoast is? It's #1 right now. It's the most popular one. All-in-One is closely on its heels. And then you have Scribe, has a lot of good followers. Headspace 2 has some good followers, Ultimate, and then it goes on down.
Oh, there's Jetpack.
And there's your Jetpack.
There it is.
Guess what? There's your Jetpack, yeah, he's on the list. So these are the ones that have been cited in 2013 reviews. So you could consider these ones that are currently well supported, and somebody likes them. Okay? Each one of these plugins organizes themselves slightly different. And what you will find, and I found that too when we go to the comparison, is that some of the organization doesn't make sense to me, but makes sense to you. So you will like plugin A, and I will like plugin B, even if they do all the exact same things. Sometimes that's a big factor. The other is, there are other issues. Let's say you focus more on publishing images. So the SEO plugin you're going to select is going to emphasize that. And let's say you're somebody who does a lot of content, managing content. Well, you want an SEO plugin that helps you with that more. Okay, so there are different things you're doing that makes one SEO plugin better than the other. But they all try to do a lot of the same things.
What do you?
Okay, now we have some plugins that kind of add a little more goodie that you might need specifically for your needs, that is not supported by your favorite comprehensive plugin. So this particular list of plugins that we're going to see next target specific SEO or related tasks. They add a specialized feature. They do one thing really well. They may not be SEO specific, but they in some way help the SEO process. And there's the concept of best of breed. Every once in a while, that's kind of the way to go. There are times when doing one thing really well, especially if you really need it done well, is better than in a comprehensive one that might do it kind of okay, but doesn't quite really give you the tools to do it really well. So there's that kind of a conflict. So here's the list. They're in order of function, alphabetized by function. And you can see you have authorship, you have managing backlink data, you have content management, you have Google Analytics that you can have right on your WordPress site. You have the ability to edit this file, which is important for things like redirects and cleaning up bad linked pages and things like that. But this is really geeky, so I wouldn't get into this unless this made sense to you. You have image compressor. If you've got a lot of image, you want something to automatically compress your images. You have tools that take your JavaScript and your style sheets and organize them and make sure they're loaded at the right point to improve performance. You have SEO Moz has a link management widget. We have one that manages internal links so they're nice and clean and consistent. Probably necessary on really big sites. You have local search, that's got mentioned quite a few times. The WP Touch and Upsider make your website more mobile friendly. So I would recommend that you have a responsive design theme instead, but if you don't and you really want to be mobile instantly, you could use those two plugins to kind of make yourself more mobile friendly without having to touch your theme. The Super Cache and 3 Total Cache got mentioned quite a few times. I'll be talking a little more about caching a little later, so we'll get back to that. SEO Rank Reporter takes your rank data and shows it to you. Social media, rich snippets, really popular with Google right now. Here's a tool that focuses just on that. URL management, posting slugs, all those kinds of things, and Google Sitemaps manages. This is done by Yoast also, and it's Google Sitemaps is also embedded in their comprehensive. So if you use Yoast, you'll get Google Sitemaps.
And this is going to go up on your...
Yeah, it's in the ebook. This table is in the ebook. Plus, you have it printed out for you on your here. What are the best? Okay, long list. What are the best plugins for me now? You've given this long laundry list, and I still can't figure out what I want. So, what are the best plugins for me? First, I'd start out with one of the comprehensives to kind of give you a general cover of the basic SEO things. So pick your comprehensive. Then look at your specialized needs and add a couple of plugins, if needed, and only if needed, that target that specific thing. Like if you have a page with a lot of images, you may want to do more image management and compression. If you have a lot of traffic, that super cache might be of value to you, especially if you're on a hosting site that has a lot of impact. Okay? Content authorship, if you're doing a lot of authorship and you're trying to really enhance your Google Plus with authorship, there you might want to emphasize that. Or if you're doing a lot of social media, you can get plugins that tie social media right into your website and allow you to post your stuff right to Facebook the minute you post it.
And that's what's great about Jetpack.
Good, and there's a lot of others too, but yeah, Jetpack does that.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, WordPress SEO strategies. Basically, the fundamental strategies are the same as you would do for any SEO in terms of the basics. So you go back to the presentation we gave last month and look at the general strategies for SEO. Okay, what do you start with though? You always start with, how do I measure success? If you don't start there, you're wasting your time. If you don't know how to measure, if you're doing well, then don't bother doing it, because you're just sort of groping around in the dark. So the first thing you have to do is, what is success for you in this area? Page and post optimization is always a good fundamental that you should always have a strong support on, because that's what you do on a WordPress site. You post and create pages. And template optimization is a good fundamental to make sure you have that down. So stick to the fundamentals first. You're going to be well served. Keep it simple. Remember, if you can't keep it up, if you can't keep doing it, then you're wasting your time, because you'll do it a little bit, you'll stop doing it, and you'll end up with a mess. So you want to incrementally do things and make sure you can keep it up. Better to do half of what you would like to do and always do it, than to do everything you would like to do and then stop doing it. So keep that in mind. So, with that in mind, here's a good target for you to start simple. Okay, you have these optimizations, automation, image suppression, XML sitemap, snippet review. Snippet review allows you to see what Google sees when it generates a search. And that's nice to see. You can actually see your search result. It generates a search result, so you can see how your description and title all show up in there. And then you can look at it and go, oh, no, I would like it to be this way, and you can make changes. Okay? Template optimization, making sure that your site is structured properly. There's some sites that now create breadcrumbs are now the thing again. They used to be the thing back in the late 90s. They went away, nobody liked them anymore, and they're back. Guess what? If you just keep doing the same thing, after a while you'll be in again.
That's why some people have attics full of clothes.
I know. You'll be in style again someday.
Yeah.
Content, style separation, what's that mean? Is that you need to keep your style in the CSS, which means that should be a good theme. A good theme will help you manage that. So keep that in mind, that you want your style and content to be separate, because you don't want a lot of those style settings going down the wire in the middle of your content. And caching. If you have particular reasons for, which we're going to talk about next. To cache or not to cache. Okay, it's a good idea with consequences. It goes back to my no good deed goes unpunished concept. You want to make sure your cache refreshes properly, because if it doesn't, you can end up serving pages that are not the pages you just edited. Because what does a cache do? A cache takes the process template and turns it into an HTML. And then when somebody comes to your site with that slug, it serves the HTML and not the actual process content anymore. And if you change the process content and it's serving the HTML, guess what? You made a change and nobody's ever going to see it. Okay? So that's what caching basically does simply. So your cache needs to detect those changes, and it needs to force a refresh on those changes. Most of them do that pretty good, but I have heard problems. So that is just something you'll have to realize is there. So don't do it unless you really need it. Not all sites need to be cached. Sometimes it's like putting a V8 high-performance engine in a car that you only go down to the market and back on. Do you really need that much performance to go to the market? No. If you have a site that doesn't have a lot of heavy downloading to do, and you are on a web host server that has good performance, it's on a fiber optic cable, you could cache and it make no difference whatsoever. So you're adding burden to your website and you're not getting anything for it. So basically, if you think you might need a cache, try it. But make sure you measure it. Make sure you know that it is actually helping you, that you're getting the performance boost. Because if you're not getting the performance boost, you know, you're adding a plugin that's not really helping you. And that's kind of a waste of time. And some of your web hosting services use what are called shared hosting, which means you're sharing one machine, and they'll put hundreds, if not thousands, of websites on the same machine. And that means, well, that means you're going to go a little slower, because that machine's serving all these websites. Okay? So keep that in mind. And then caching would help you in that regard, most likely. So there's lots of reasons to cache. And there's lots of reasons not to. So test it first. If it doesn't give you good performance that you can really see and measure with a stopwatch, don't do it. Okay, now we're going to do a little side-by-side for 5-10 minutes here. We're going to start off with a little chart, because it kind of shows you, I've taken Yoast WordPress and all-in-one and put them side by side in terms of features. So you have, these are the features. I went through each one very carefully and listed sort of the major features, and then put little X's by whether they had it in a similar level and similar form. And so you can see that Yoast has more features. That doesn't make it better. Because if it's not doing, you know, if you don't need these and you only need these, then you don't need Yoast, see? So keep that in mind. It's gotta be useful to you, yes.
Forgive me, I haven't looked at WordPress in 4 years. Are you saying there's two kinds of WordPresses? One called Yoast and one called...
No, this is a SEO plugin that
Okay,
adds SEO enhancements to
Thank
your
you.
WordPress. And one of them is called Yoast WordPress SEO, and the other one's called All-in-One SEO. I left the word SEO off
okay, thanks.
because, see, I didn't have much room there.
Okay. Scared me there.
Oh, no, no. So that's what we're going to do here for a minute. We're going to actually bring these two guys up. And, there it is. Okay, here's one. I'll find the other one. This is Yoast. And let's get back to the general. When you open Yoast, this is what you get. You have a bunch of tags here that talks about your title template, the various post types. In other words, it allows you to manage whether to index and follow, no index and follow, authorship, don't show the author tag, or turn it on. In other words, this would turn it off, that would leave it on, so it's on by default. So these are some general for posts, all posts. This is for all pages. So over here on SEO, you have SEO, all-in-one SEO, you have a section. Now these are organized, they're very different, which makes it very hard to compare them. In all-in-one SEO, he has some of that down here, and he has custom post settings here instead of having them. And then he has display settings. So show column labels, display menu. Okay, he has them a little differently. This is why it's kind of hard to compare them in many ways, because it's a totally different organization. But that's the same area here. So these two areas are very similar types of settings. Okay? Rewrite titles, that's your title optimization that we talked about, getting rid of the stop words and things like that. Over here, you had your page title. He does it by literally being able to make a template of your page title template. In other words, these words allow him to take these pieces and build a title for you automatically. Okay, so that's how Yoast does it. Yoast does it by you creating a template for how you want your title to show up, and he will follow that template. Okay? Whereas here, I think he just rewrites it. He does have some templates here, okay, but not as extensive. So he does have the same kind of a template idea right here. So very similar concept to what we showed you over here is right here. So there's a lot of similarities. They're just in different places.
Question?
Yes.
In either one of these, is there a place, the thing I don't like about my blogs is they're not pretty. I'm used to being able to do typography in Word and make things look beautiful, and I don't find a way to do that, even with the lame plugin that I use in my WordPress. Is there anything in either Yoast or All-in-One that enables us to choose the typeface and point size of the content?
You need a different plugin for that. You need what's called the Ultimate Tiny Mice plugin.
Okay.
And it will allow you to bring up the font styles and all of those things.
There's ultimate what?
Ultimate Tiny Mice.
Okay.
MCE?
Yeah, MCE, Tiny
MCE.
MCE. That's the name of the editor that's in WordPress. Tiny Mice, MCE. Okay, the ultimate one. Now there's one that's called the Advanced. It does a little bit too, but the Ultimate has more settings. If you really want fine-grained settings, then the Ultimate has more settings. It's a little harder to configure, It's more techy, but it lets you really granularly put I mean, you can literally put as many icons up at the top as you have in Word. Literally, I mean, hundreds. Where you can do all kinds of things, tables and fonts and styles. But you got to remember that no matter what you do, the browser at the other end has to show that typeface. And if it can't show the typeface, you waste your time. And so you're limited by what the browsers can do.
Yeah.
The receiving browser.
The receiving
Right.
browser.
May look beautiful on your computer,
Yeah.
but the other person is just pulling a particular typeface that's close, or maybe not even close to what you're asking
Yeah,
for.
so you got to be really careful with
Yeah,
that.
I see what you're saying.
So stances you want to get, you can actually not get where you want to go.
But if you want to have, like, instead of a different font, maybe a common font, but maybe different, sizes or
Mhm.
like attributes like bold and italics.
Right, so that's where the ultimate, the advanced Tiny Mice or the ultimate Tiny Mice would give you the settings to alter it just like you would in Word,
Right.
just like you would in the word processor.
Does that basically just automate, I think it's the CSS languaging?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's what I do, I go to HTML and I take a look and see.
Right, and that's what you would have to do in those cases. I don't know what I have installed here for plugins.
No, I realize this is about SEO.
Right.
Yeah. I was just kind of, as we were going, I was looking to see if there was anything in there.
No, it's not, yeah, it's not considered an SEO thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but those are the two plugins you want to do.
Okay.
Okay, taxonomies is a word not used in the all-in-one, but basically it has to do with managing category titles, tag template titles, and formatting of a meta description, robots tags, things like that. And I think he has many of the same things. Here's your no index setting, that's similar, okay? Advanced settings, these are a lot of those same things. So it has them organized different. They've got a lot of the same things in these two areas.
May I ask you a question about something right there that says, meta robots, and underneath that SEO meta box, hide. In my blog, I have all of my search terms. They show up at the top of the blog. Is that something that I could check so that they don't show up to the readers? Is that
That's a
what
good
that is
question.
about?
No, I'd have to look. I actually don't know whether that would affect that or not, but that's a good question.
Okay,
I'd have to look that up.
all right, thanks.
Be a good one to test.
It sounds like what that would be connected to, and since he's got it here, most likely when they put things here is because he wants you the option to hide it.
What sounds weirder to me is that whoever designed the template would have thought that anybody such as myself using this template would want my readers to see all these search words. You know, it's like, here I go to all this effort to make it look beautiful, and then it has all these, I'm like, what, I don't want this on it.
Other things, author archives, this is that content management kind of thing. Disable author archives, this would help your, this would get rid of one of your content duplication problem. You can also disable date-based archives so they don't show up. And so that would help your duplicate content, the appearance of duplicate content. So that's managed right here. I didn't see that setting over here. So I think it could be, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. He has some performance settings over here. But that's more caching type of things. So that didn't help that much in that area. Feature manager didn't really do anything, it's just so they can sell you more stuff, so. So basically everything's, this is why in that chart it had less features. It basically had less features than this one. In here, SEO, Yoast has all these submenus. These are all parts of it has a social settings, I think all-in-one has the same social settings, so they match there, or you can link your, it has a whole Facebook setting, it has Twitter and Google+. All-in-one has many of those same settings. All-in-one doesn't have the XML map setting, so this is unique to Yoast, which is, you definitely should want to have, if you like all-in-one because it's simple and you understand it, then you would want to add a SEO XML plugin to enhance that, because you do want that plugin. Okay? You can also do some permalink management here above and beyond what I already told you about. Internal link management is here. We'll get into that. It gets, basically it has to do with breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs are becoming the thing now. RSS is really not a specific SEO thing, but it's an enhancement Yoast has added. Yoast also has a way of exporting and importing your settings. Matter of fact, it allows you to import your settings from other other SEO packages, which is kind of neat. If you want to switch back and forth and try both, you can try all-in-one and then import from all-in-one and then take it from there. So, yes.
Is there, for lack of a better word, is there like a Cliff Notes ebook on Yoast?
Yes, Yoast has that.
Well, I mean, because, if you don't, I know of Yoast, but I don't know
They
much.
have their own little
Oh, what are they
video-
selling that for?
Yeah,
$60-70.
Yeah.
Okay.
and he also has a little book. There's also help on his website. He has a blog where he talks about a lot of the topics, and you can get all that for free. Matter of fact, he has one blog post that goes through all of his settings and talks about all of his settings
Okay.
and how you do them. It's not extensive, but it's enough to get you started. So on his blog, he has one whole post where he's gone through all his settings and why he has chosen those settings and what they're supposed to do for him. So yeah, he is very well documented. They both are really, but he's marketed his documentation a lot, which is fun. And you also, over here, if you're really geeky, you can edit your robots text file and your htaccess file right here inside of you. So it also has that tool right there so that you can edit those things. And if you don't know what that is, I wouldn't even
touch
look.
it.
I wouldn't touch it. It's one of those things where you could really make a mess real fast. Okay? Okay. Basically, we have covered everything, unless you have some specific questions. Yes?
I have two questions. What are the costs involved in using Yoast or all-in-one?
Both are free.
Okay,
How's that?
can you show us samples of WordPress blogs that you've built?
Yeah,
Please.
I could, but not right here. I can show you later. Okay, we're kind of over time, and we got to clean up and be out of here at 4 o'clock, so I can't.
Okay.
So I just need to answer. That's a question that would take me 15, 20, 30 minutes to cover.
We just want to see them, okay. That's fine.
Okay?
Thank you.
Could we go online later and look up get the link to the blog and look at it that way?
Sure. Yeah, we have, if you go to our Right Start blog, we have some of our sites there that you can go look at, and we have 3 blogs going. We have a WordPress resource blog, we have a Right Start blog, and then we have a SonicSpider blog, and they all have a lot of different, a lot more information. So there's links on those 2 websites to all the way to those blogs, where we publish theme reviews, and we publish, there's an article about fonts. Who's asking about fonts?
Me.
Yes, there's an article about fonts in there, Google fonts, that you might want to go look at in the Right Start website's blog. That Melanie's our designer person, she did a whole thing on fonts
Cool.
that you might want to look at.
Excellent.